back to another episode of New England Road Talk. I'm Conrad Leger with Environmental Partners, joined again by Art Baker of Indus and Bobby Betsold of All States Material Group. Guys, how's it going?
Good. Another here day in New England with some snow on the ground now.
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Absolutely. So today's episode was a bit unique. We went live today with Stump the Instructor of UMass Transportation Center and Mike Smith. So it was a lot of fun going live. We've never done that before. There's a lot of reasons we don't do that because of technical issues like you saw in the episode. But Mike always does a great job with Stump. He's actually one of the reasons or one of the means that I looked at in terms of, getting this whole thing going. So it was really interesting to jump on there and hear his perspective about where UMass is going with training moving forward. And also just be able to share a little bit about what we're doing here.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely different. Like you said, the live aspect of it, and kind of different in terms of it was some back and forth with Mike kind of interviewing us and us at him, and a few questions from the audience. But I think it was something different, and now we've got a couple episodes with guests. We've got this starting to mix it up and that and stuff. So hopefully we'll kind of continue on that road and have a little bit more fun. And not just the three of us all the time. So, hopefully we'll be able to do some more stuff like this.
Yeah, and Mike and I go way back. We're in neighboring hill towns, so we know each other pretty well. And Mike is very good at keeping it light and keeping people on the edge of their seats, which I thought he did a good job of today. I thought there was good interaction. We had a lot of good questions from his viewers, and I think that's good for the future viewers that are going to watch both his program and ours. And we look forward to the future episodes.
Yeah, Art, that shirt is fire today.
Yep.
All right. With that being said, here's our live episode with Mike Smith at UMTC and Stump the Instructor.
I'm going to welcome Conrad Leger of Environmental Partners, Bobby Betsold from the All States Materials Group, and my Hilltown hillbilly friend, Art Baker of Indus, joining us this morning as well. These gentlemen are from New England Road Talk, and they agreed to join me on the show here to talk about what they are currently up to with New England Road Talk. They have a podcast out, and if you haven't seen it yet, I found it on LinkedIn at first, and I was like, hey, I know those guys. I recognize all three of them. So I listened to what they had to say, and it was amazing. It was actually really beneficial information. And so then I made, the mistake of emailing them and saying, hey, would you join me on Stump the Instructor? And maybe we could talk about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. And unfortunately for them, they said yes, and now here they are. And so we're going to try to fill up the hour talking about maybe a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it in this virtual world. And also, if we have time, some actual pavement preservation stuff, because there's three experts in the room with us this morning. So we're gonna start off talking about what it is that they're doing and why, and how that has how we think it can be a benefit to the DPW community, because we're all still trying to learn. I can't believe March 13th, I think, was the day I was, in a sense, kicked out of my last in-person face-to-face training. And by God, the anniversary is coming up real quick. We're about a month away from a 1 year since we've had any real face-to-face training. And we're still, even after that, still trying to figure out the best ways to bring training to everybody, which isn't a big change because we're always trying to look for a better way to do it. But these guys have a pretty cool podcast. So why don't you all say, the three of you could say good morning and maybe introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit more about what you do, and then I'll fire off some questions at you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get started. First off, I just want to thank UMTC for having us on today. Mike, when you started this Stump the Instructor way back, that's actually when it got some juices flowing in my head about, being able to do something virtually like this. So hats off to you and UMTC for putting the Stump together for the past almost year now. It's been a long running thing, and I'm sure a lot of people have gotten a lot of information out of it. Yeah, so just to talk briefly about New England Road Talk. So it's, as you said, Mike, it's a podcast format and it's available on YouTube. And it really started pretty organically. I was sitting in bed one day during, this whole COVID thing on a rainy night, and self-proclaimed nerd here. So I was YouTubing pavement management and roadways and pavement preservation treatments. And I realized that there really wasn't much content on YouTube. So I actually, I'm a podcast listener myself. So I went onto my podcast application on my phone and I tried to do the same thing. I tried to, look for infrastructure, look for roadways, look for pavement, and again, came up with nothing. So Bobby, Art, and I talk on a regular basis, and every time I talk to these guys, I learn something new. So we came up with the idea of just starting to record some of our conversations, come up with some topics, and it's really meant to be a casual and fun conversation, and also be educational as well. So we think it's a perfect format for public works and being able to get information and useful information out. Bobby, Art, and I have taught a number of classes through UMTC and a number of other organizations. So we just wanted to find an avenue to be able to get information out to folks that are out there looking for some of this information. And we found that YouTube is a great, avenue to be able to put this information out, because you don't have to necessarily sign on to at a certain time. You could watch it when you're sitting at your desk during a snowstorm. You could watch it, while you're laying in bed, waiting to go to bed. So we found it to be very useful. Art, what did I miss?
I think you hit it pretty good, Conrad. I too would like to thank you guys for having us on the show. We missed the face-to-face opportunities, teaching, all the educations. Conrad and I used to do the boot camp together, and we missed that face-to-face. So I think both of these avenues are great to educate people on a different avenue. As far as the New England Road Talk goes, when Conrad called me, I was honored, number one, that he called me, and I'm honored to be part of the group with Bobby and Conrad, because I really think, we discuss this quite often, and we really hope to put together agendas that people enjoy and want to tune into every week to learn something more about DPW. As a past public works director, I try to bring that part of it to the show as well, to give people my experiences as a past DPW director for 12 years. So that combined with the private industry experience, we hope to educate people best we can. So again, we're honored to be on this show and look forward to talking to your viewers.
Yeah, I think I would echo that, and showing my appreciation. The hat's not going to stay on very long. A little too warm in here, but I had to get a little bit of UMTC out there between that and the mug. But Mike, I think very similar to you. My last class, I was in the middle of 4 pavement preservation classes for Bay State roads and got through 2 of them. And March 11th was my last one down in the Cape. And as the day was going on, everyone in the room was getting alerts of this was shutting down and that was shutting down. And that was it. The next time I taught the class was virtual. And it was certainly an adjustment. I think everyone has adjusted, and we'll talk a bit more, hopefully here today on some of the different things that have been done, both, with Bay State roads and what we're doing. It's been fun, similar to Art, when Conrad called, we were talking on some other stuff, and he said what he was thinking about this, and I was all in. It's been great. As you can see, we try and have a little bit of fun. Art's been the master of changing up his shirts. He's gone from flannels to Hawaiian, and then tried copying Conrad and I a bit with the quarter zips. We got to see what else we're going to come up with for some of these future episodes, but it's just good, without having the networking, be able to have a little bit of fun with things, and also get some information out there, share it, and hopefully be able to keep going with it. So certainly look forward to continuing, and any ideas anyone has.
Mike, I was hoping Chris would be on the viewing today. So this shirt is in honor of your fearless leader, Chris.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, it used to be a requirement to attend the advisory council meetings that you had to wear a Hawaiian shirt. And I don't know what happened to that tradition. And I have mixed emotions about how I feel about it. Part of me is delighted. that I don't have to wear a Hawaiian shirt, but part of me really enjoyed when they were face-to-face meetings, showing up at a hotel conference center in January wearing a Hawaiian shirt and seeing, the person at the front door look at you like, welcome to our facility. And like, this guy's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and it's 14 degrees out. And it was fun. So that's a good shirt there. There was no prior communication. Otherwise, I could have worn a Hawaiian shirt too. I could have put on the whole deal, a grass skirt too, but nobody really wants to see that. But all right, we'll move on from that. So that was a good intro, guys. It really let us know what you're up to, and your backgrounds in this too. So we've taken care of my first two questions already. You guys are killing it. What do you want your listeners to get out of your podcast or your training? And maybe you've already covered this, but what do you want them to get after tuning in to one of your?
Bobby, you go first on this one.
I think it's a combination. One is going back to the networking and being able to discuss. I think that's even we just recorded. If anyone didn't see it, we just released a Mass Highway episode here this past Monday, and a lot of what we talked about was the fact that we haven't been able to get together for events. So that's where all of us as an industry, public works directors together, everyone gets a chance to exchange ideas and talk about things. So, I think it's an information exchange. It's a way of still getting some kind of face-to-face, I guess, shall we call it, and keeping going forward. And also, I think, as we move forward with some of our future episodes and some of the guests we have planned, really looking forward to being able to bring to New England and to people here some industry experts from outside the area, and without, letting the cat out of the bag, shall we say, we've got some pretty cool guests that are lined up and in the queue to bring some information that people I think normally wouldn't be exposed to. So I think that'll certainly be a good thing for everyone to hear and see.
Great.
I'll just add, as a past public works director, when I was a director, I always yearned for more information, to try to learn more about my trade and master my trade. And I just think, this is an awesome opportunity with the agenda that we're going to be putting together for people to come on. And, there's going to be some stuff they already know about, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that they can really learn about how to expand their toolbox in a lot of different areas of public works and a road. So we look forward to presenting that information to everybody.
Yeah, and I think, what Bobby and Art just touched on, obviously the educational portion of it is our most, I guess our goal in the whole thing is to just distribute information. Bobby had mentioned that we have a few guests coming up, some national guests and connections that we have. For me, that was really an exciting portion of being able to put this together, is being able to expose folks in this region to some things that we have been exposed to by traveling to different conferences around. Not everybody has an opportunity to go to. And then most importantly, we just want to entertain people.
Well, Art's got that one covered for you today, that's for sure.
I'm an easy target.
I think Conrad's Wi-Fi might have, or his internet might have let him down this morning. He's frozen on my end anyway.
Unless he's doing a really good Chris impression of being frozen.
So I did that at a meeting I had with Chris last week. We were all talking and he was talking about stuff, and I just stopped in mid-sentence, and he actually thought that I froze. So I'm getting pretty good at that. So I'm going to answer this one too. Why not? I mean, it was a question that I asked you, but I was thinking about it while you were all answering. Is like, what do I want people to take away from Stump? When I first started, I had no idea where it was going to end up, and I still don't. And the title came to me, Stump the Instructor, truly because I wanted this hour to be a time when people could just come in and ask any question they wanted. And, we're trying to pick topics, or I'm trying to always have some type of a topic to whet the appetite. But and that in itself, by the way, is that's a little tough to always come up with a topic. So if you have ideas, something you'd like on Stump, send me an email, mdsmith@umass.edu, and I would be happy to consider your topic for Stump. But Stump the Instructor is a play on words because of my chainsaw love for chainsaw teaching, and an opportunity for you to ask me a question I can't answer. That was my thought process behind the title. So my goal is to be entertaining, which just the bald head and the big ears alone is enough. I don't need the Hawaiian shirt, Art. I draw all those comments just based on my looks, like the hat Bobby had on. If I put that on with these glasses, you can't believe the dork that I look like. So I can't wear hats like that.
I'd give it to you, but I haven't figured out the whole virtual passing thing yet.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm almost positive somewhere in the building that I'm at, I probably could find one. But again, I can't wear it because you don't even want to know what I look like wearing that hat. But so my goal for Stump was to be entertaining, but also provide some level of education, something that's important to the DPW world. We actually started off with COVID-19 updates every week. For the first few minutes. We've had some sessions that were totally devoted to COVID. And I think we're all so used to COVID now, which is sickening to actually think that, but we are. Now we're back to, let's just talk training. Unless something really new and wild happens with COVID, God forbid. I think we've adapted pretty well to that. So that's my goal for Stump, is to try to get everybody to laugh at least once during the session and still provide some type of training. Like, for example, and I hope my wife is tuned in on Facebook Live, because I told her that this was going to happen today. You never know when you're going to learn and where you're going to learn. And I learn every day. Somebody teaches me something every day. And I've learned that if you don't know how to articulate something, that sign language is okay. And I'm not talking about true sign language, because I don't know how to do that. But my wife was telling me a web address the other day, and I was typing it as she was telling me. And she says, it's, whatever it is, .com/ blah, blah, blah. And I said, / or /. And she went like that. So I learned how to do the / or the / with sign language. And it was like perfect. It's just one hand was up there and instant karate chop. So you never know when that opportunity for learning is going to present itself. Crystal, I love you. If you're listening, that one was just for you, sweetheart. All right, back to the real format here. Where do you think New England Road Talk is going to go in the future?
Conrad, why don't you start that one?
Well, since this is why we don't do live stuff, is because, I get kicked off of, Zoom. So it's the pros and cons of the virtual. I can do it from my living room, but I can't stay online. So there's a number of different ways that we're going to go with New England Road Talk, and there's a number of different avenues that we can go. So the way that we've kind of outlined the structure for at least the first few episodes. So we're on episode, I think we just released episode 5 was the Mass Highway one. And, we're already looking at, episode 15 and what that's going to entail. So as Bobby mentioned, we have a number of different guests coming in from not only locally, but also on the national level as well. So we're just going to try to hit all avenues of roads. This is why we named it Road Talk, because there's a number of different avenues you can go, whether it be, stormwater infrastructure underneath the roads, utility coordination. There's just so many different avenues that we can go. And we have a lot of good things lined up from guests in this region to guests on a national level.
Great. Yeah, the whole live thing, it was a learning curve for me too. Conrad, you're not alone. The squirrel-powered internet that we have in the metropolis of Heath tends to kick me off Zoom on a regular basis, which is why I'm always at UMass for these. I need more reliable internet. They say broadband's coming, and I have seen them working feverishly, stringing the cable and the fiber up on the poles, but by God, they haven't put it into my house yet. I can't wait till they do, just so that, maybe we could actually check email and look at Facebook at the same time in my house. That would be amazing. But that's the way it is. Don't worry about getting kicked off. We'll let you back in every time. Let's see. I have somebody go ahead. I got a question I'm reading in the chat, but go ahead with whatever. Who was going to say whatever?
And there's there's a number of topics we want to hit on here, just between the three of us as well. As I was saying, every time I talk to these guys, I learn something new. And anytime I'm looking for something that I don't personally know on roads, these are two of the first guys that I go to. So, like in our upcoming episode, Bobby, Art, and I are going to talk about, bottom of the curve treatments. We already hit top of the curve treatments. And, some of the intricacies that you might not know, or options that you might not know when working on the bottom of the curve. So it's just little episodes like that where they're meant to be, 20, 30-minute conversations where you can get out a lot of information in a short period of time.
Folks, I don't know if you're paying attention, but he said he wanted to be entertaining. And I don't know how many references he's made to roads. He mentioned avenues several times the last time he was speaking. Well, is it roads or is it avenues? Or are they streets? Or are they, maybe it's a place or a circle? And then he just had another one right there too. Bottom of the curve, get it? We're talking about roads, bottom of the curve. I mean, come on, he's on fire today.
Mike, I like everything, here during COVID, memes have become the huge thing. It's everyone has nothing else to do. So we've had an abundance, and, I'm sure it's probably floated around for a long time, but, I got one from a friend a few weeks ago, and I realized, oh, this is me now. Now having been here for close to 8 years of, you're in the industry when you're driving down the road, not for work, somewhere random, and you go either, oh, hey, yeah, I worked on this road, or, oh, what kind of surface is that? Or, oh, they need to do that. When you start talking about the roads that you're driving on in your daily life, you're in the industry, and you're like, yeah, I'm done. You got no chance at that point.
I couldn't agree more. I was at Acadia National Park with my wife and family. We're hiking, and we happened to cross a paved roadway. And so I walked from the ditch to the center of the road down the other side. And I was very impressed with the crown. And I literally went back to the center of the road and tried to hold a stick as level as I could and figure out exactly what the crown, and my family is looking at me like, what kind of a nerd are you? It's like, they got a lot of crown on these roads. I'm just trying to figure out how much it is, and then same thing. I'm always sniffing the asphalt, looking at, is that open graded? Is that porous? What is that they're using there?
My first realization was I was down at the Masters down in Georgia. And here we are, it's, 5 a.m. driving and ready to go to, the hallowed ground for golf. And I'm looking at the road going, what kind of mix is this?
And you got it goes back to knowing your audience, right, Mike?
That's right.
My wife is definitely not going to tune into New England Road Talk. I can promise you that much. She gets enough of me saying stupid things when we're driving around looking at roads. So, but the folks that are on this call today, and the folks that have been tuning in, we've gotten hundreds of views on those on the videos that we've released so far, and we're hoping that it's entertaining for people. The last thing you want to do is put a video up and have it be boring. So, entertainment is definitely part of the criteria, but also the information part of it.
And I have to admit, I'm probably the worst person in the world for watching pre-recorded anything, because I tend to, a squirrel, very quickly. But I was actually intrigued by yours, and part of that is, of course, because I know you, but I think you're well known. The three of you are well known in the industry too, and that helps. To have that facial recognition and then have an important topic to watch. So I was pretty impressed. Folks, how about a question from the crowd? If there's anybody out there that has anything, it's been quiet and the chat's not too active. It isn't just about how to deliver virtual training today. There's 3 pavement management experts in the room, so don't be afraid to throw a question or two out there for them, or anything for myself that you might like as well. Like some people are concerned about the groundhog and the fact that regardless of whether he sees a shadow or not, if you look at the calendar on the day he comes out, there is exactly 6 weeks left to the calendar end of winter, and that's true. And they say if he sees a shadow, there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter. Well, that's true. There's going to be 6 more weeks either way. But what does it mean if he doesn't see a shadow? What does that mean? That's the real question. It means there's going to be an early spring, but they don't say how early. It could be 5 hours early. It's still an early spring. So if it warms up a little bit, then we have an early spring. All right, we have a couple of questions in the chat here. How do we teach an old dog new tricks? And I won't read that went to everyone, so I guess I can read it. My boss is against anything new. Lisa, I think I probably have mentioned this to you before. You shot the groundhog last spring. I can't believe you. I'm a huge lover of the groundhog. I'm going to need counseling after this. Back to your first question, or to the question. The two things that I find that DPW hates the most are the way things are and change. And I haven't figured out the best way to deal with that yet. You know, we don't want anything new, but we really don't like what we have. Well, the two don't go hand in hand. My favorite example, and those of you that know me are going to hate this because you've seen it a million times. If you have that person in your DPW or your town or whatever, absolutely, they don't want anything to do with change. We have everything working perfectly. We've done it this way forever. Why should I listen to you? Blah, 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 blah. Ask them if they have, you can't see it for whatever reason. There it is. Ask them if they have a cell phone. See if they have a smartphone. My virtual background's kind of messing with it. If they have a smartphone in their hand or in their possession, or even a cell phone, and if they are over the age of, let's say, 40, and they have a cell phone, ask them if it's the only cell phone they ever had, or is, you know, that the first one you've ever had. Most people that have a smartphone probably had a flip phone before that, if they're 40 years of age or older. If you're younger than that, you may not even know what a flip phone is. And if you're really old, you may have had a bag phone before you had the smartphone. Now, some of you are like, what is he talking about? You don't know what a bag phone is. And some of us are old enough to remember going over to the wall in the building, picking up this thing and going up and actually dialing a telephone. And yet now we all walk around with smartphones. So we're willing to change that part of our life, but we're not willing to look at technology and how to change other aspects of our life. And I don't understand it. So that's one thing that might work for you, Lisa. And we've got three other folks here.
And I'll just, I'll start that one and I'll add on to that. You know, I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to knowing what it's costing you to maintain your network and taking a network approach to your road system. There's a lot of tools out there to help you learn that doing that worst first approach, you know, asphalt has gone up tremendously. You know, in the last 20 years, asphalt's gone from, you know, $25 a ton in place to, you know, people are paying anywhere from $65 to $80 a ton nowadays. So we just don't have the budgets in our municipal budgets to afford to do just paving. But it's such an entrained, you know, it's what we've done forever. The phone rings, somebody's complaining about the road, you know, everybody's gone out to address that complaint. And so it's really learning that new approach and using some of the tools. And I'll mention roadresource.org, because when you look at that website and you look at things like remaining service life and equivalent annual cost, that helps you understand that you just can't afford to just work on your bad roads. Do you neglect your bad roads? Absolutely not. You still have to chip away at doing some of your bad roads. But if you're using all of your available funding on just your bad roads, you're always going to have bad roads and you're just going to keep chasing your tail. And Conrad can go into depth a little bit more about the deterioration curve. And what you try to do is save some of those roads that are in the middle of the deterioration curve that would ultimately move into the next treatment band that gets very, very expensive. As you move down that deterioration curve, it gets very, very expensive. So if you can keep roads to the upper end in the middle of that deterioration curve without allowing them to get into the bad condition, you save yourself a lot of money, again, over the long-term approach. So it's got to be a sustainable program, something that you just don't throw money at for a year or two. And I think as good pavement managers will be able to explain to you, you know, at first, yes, it takes an upfront requirement of money, but as you continue to do and spend a portion of your budget on preservation, the need for funding actually decreases over time, but it has to happen over, you know, a long period of time.
Yeah, and Lisa, you know, this is one of the topics that we talked about in one of our recent episodes, episode 3 with the pavement preservation, is just talking about from a pavement management standpoint, my side of things. It's one of the most favorite parts of my job is to work with all the different municipalities and the different situations that they're in right now. So in your situation, it sounds like, you know, you do strictly paving. And when I walk in for a pavement management program and work with the municipality that I'm working with, it's all about laying all the options out. And maybe the community that I'm working with at that time has never been introduced to pavement preservation or pavement management in general and the concepts of pavement management. So it really just starts out as an education process, having them understand the benefits of, working at the top of the curve, the pavement deterioration curve compared to the bottom, but with full knowledge that, your particular community might be in a situation where you simply don't have enough roadways in those good categories to work on a consistent basis. So it could be, reprogramming your overall network program to knock out some of those preservation roadways in the beginning, and then continuing with your overall paving program until you can get some of those roadways up into that category. Bobby, why don't you talk about your experience there too?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, and even going to kind of take a step even further back towards the beginning of, I'm a big proponent of, in general, whether it be roads or talking about virtual and going that and stuff, is, as humans, we fear change. And we're a change averse creature. So, I think I always try and look at, okay, what are the issues? What are the challenges? And start from there and see where solutions may match up. And I think that's where, when you get into, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what, what we have for issues or things that are coming up, be it, we don't have enough budget. We're getting feedback on X, Y, or Z, or, there's this issue here that maybe deals with, maybe gets more into drainage or different things like that. So if you kind of start out with saying, okay, what are the issues that we're trying to address, and then go from there and trying to create some solutions, it kind of adds that value and what you're going to get out of it, just by saying, instead of, oh yeah, hey, let's do something new, it's kind of giving a reason behind it. And then from there you take the plan, and I think that's obviously the big thing is, having that plan. And, I think the other part is go out, see what's happening in neighboring communities, talk to your colleagues. A lot of this stuff, it's not new. It may be new in a community, but it's not new in the area. It's not new across the country. So if people can get a comfort by seeing someone else that's done it, seeing it go down, if it's a new treatment for your community, that adds, I think, some comfort level. And then when you do start up, don't try and go full bore all in. Start with one or two things and kind of almost do it as a trial and ease your way in, rather than going full steam ahead. I've seen sometimes communities try and go too fast into things, and it's almost overwhelming. So I think that would be the other thing, but really just trying to figure out what are you trying to accomplish, and setting some goals that you can do by making some of these changes.
Almost like eating your first jalapeno, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
You don't put the whole thing in your mouth. Maybe you take just a little bit at first.
And Mike, I'll just add, some simple things. Like I tend to ask people who, want to debate whether to use preservation or not. Are you changing the oil in your car? Are you painting your house? Those are the same questions that you really need to ask yourself about your road network. What are you doing to maintain your road network like you do your other assets, that we do maintain on a regular basis?
Yeah. So Lisa, I hope you're still with us. Part of what Art was just saying is gets to your point of, I know exactly what I'm doing. People say that all the time. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what works. And my opinion is, when they're saying that, chances are they're making that statement based on 30 years of doing exactly the same thing and expecting exactly the same outcome. And that is their definition, or would be their definition, of this is what works, when it really isn't. There is more to life in asphalt management than mill and fill. Okay. I mean, mill and fill is maybe, a 2 to 3 year look, I fixed the road, and then it looks exactly the same. You get the cracks back at about an inch per year. So mill and fill, although sometimes is necessary, it makes me want to puke every time I see it happening. There are some other questions that I want to get to. I was going to ask what bomagging is, but we'll wait on that one. That's just for the guys here this morning. That's a special Vermont term. Sorry, Jill, I didn't give you that one sooner. Let's see here. I had one come to me via my text messages. Why don't we see more concrete roadways in New England? I have an opinion. And then I have probably a more accurate answer, but I'd like to hear from the three of you first.
We're going to do the Brady Bunch and figure out who wants to go for it.
I think
Right, why don't you go first?
I think that's a good one for you, Bobby, to start, because Full depth, they sometimes put concrete in.
I thought you were going to say because I'm an asphalt guy. We do concrete now a little bit though, so I can't bash it. But no, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with you know, and I'm going to jump to the pavement preservation mantra because I think it applies not just to pavement preservation, but to choosing a treatment in general of, you know, right treatment, right road, right time. And we all know we're in New England. New England has very, very you know, ever-changing climate, I guess, shall we say? And you know, you get the asphalt, which is more flexible, versus concrete, which is more rigid. And there's certainly places for it, you know, like everything. But in terms of a cold weather climate, freeze thaw, a lot of things moving parts. You know, we all see what happens with frost heaves and that type of stuff. A very rigid surface or a very rigid structure like concrete, it doesn't lend itself well to what our New England climate is. And you know, we also get a lot of geological variation with a lot of base materials and that type of stuff. And again, kind of going back to what we see with frost heaves. So, you know, I think a lot of it really has to do with that in terms of it. And you look at places where there are higher concentrations of concrete roads, you know, go down south. You see a lot down in Florida and in those areas. Their biggest thing is the fact that they get sun all the time, you know, so oxidation is a bigger issue. So I think really the biggest factor for me in terms of what I hear and see is related to the climate.
And I think, you know, from a cost standpoint, I think it's quite a bit more expensive to build a concrete road. And then, of course, you know, you think of the Northeast and where we are with the chemicals we're putting on our roads for winter maintenance. You know, a good example is look at how many people are converting their concrete sidewalks to asphalt sidewalks because they're hard to maintain, those concrete sidewalks. You know, we try to seal them the best we can. And it seems like no matter how much maintenance you put into your concrete sidewalks, they're still pretty hard to keep, you know, up to speed. So I think that's why you see a lot of people transforming their concrete sidewalks into asphalt sidewalks.
Yeah, and I think the overall cost of first the initial installation of the concrete and also to maintain that concrete is very expensive. I see a couple folks on this call that I'm dealing with a lot of concrete roads right now, and they can attest to the fact that, you know, once those roadways start to really deteriorate, either rebuilding them or you know, just maintaining them in general and doing repairs on them becomes very difficult and very expensive.
And perhaps a future topic on Stump will be to invite the three of you and some concrete roadway experts in. We'll have a head-to-head, my dog's bigger than your dog. That could be fun. Because I believe, and I'm okay with being corrected because I still buy pencils with erasers and I know that I make mistakes. But I believe the oldest concrete road, I think, in the country is in Concord, Massachusetts, and it's in pristine condition, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's a little room for some discussion here. But I agree with you that concrete can be somewhat problematic, but I think if it's done right, even in sidewalk situations, it's an excellent tool, but it's not the only tool. I'm always big on keeping my door open to all of the possibilities. Asphalt has its place. Concrete does too, when we do it right. And I do know, like I said, I'm almost positive it's Concord. It may not be Concord, but I know that we have an extremely old concrete road that's been showcased numerous times. I just can't remember exactly where it is and how well it's lasted. Now, you know, there was a lot of thought that went into it when it was put in, and it's been maintained well, but that's like anything. You could build a roadway, and if you really do your maintenance, if you really stay on top of it, it will last a long time. And if you do full depth reclamation or cold in place, which is going to bring me to my next question from the chat, and you do it wrong, none of these things work. And if you do them correctly and you really stay on top of them, they can all be a very, very, very good road for you. So cold in place. Tom Andre asks, I probably get your last name wrong, and I apologize for that, about cold in place.
Mike, before you jump on, can I jump in?
Sure.
On the topic of firmness with concrete and pliability with asphalt, besides drainage and pliability hand in hand, which one do you think is more important as far as the longevity of a road, being stable and hard or soft and pliable?
You asking me or are you asking the asphalt gents?
Anybody who wants to jump in. And
Well, I don't think you can have one or the other. I don't think that a road works if you have one or the other. We all know the three things that create a good road are drainage, drainage, and drainage. But then beyond that, if you have a mixed design that is insanely rigid, you can expect cracks. And if you have one that's really, really pliable, in the hot weather, I would think it's going to, and heavy loads, it would fall apart. So you have to strike a balance with everything. Or at least that's my opinion about it. But what the heck do I know?
And I would agree with that, Mike. You need some hardness, so to speak, for some structure to carry your loads, but yet you need some flexibility to take care of the movement that you see in especially New England roads. So I think it's a combination of both. And it'll be a good lead into, you said your next question was on cold in place recycling with structural component.
Yeah, right. There's a question. We have used just about every type of resurfacing except cold in place recycling. And can we discuss the cost and the benefit? And again, it's my show, so what the heck? I get to be in charge. I was one of the first DPW directors in my area when I was a director to do cold in place recycling. I was looked at like I was crazy. People in the town thought, what are you doing? This is nuts. And it just wasn't a huge, people around weren't doing it. And I said, well, I've looked into it. I did some homework on it, and I don't want to just keep throwing a Band-Aid on my roads. We can't afford bottom-up technology anymore. Building a road from the bottom up is how you're supposed to do it, and we can't. And I've said this before too. Jeff Cathcart teaches basics of a good road, and he and I have said numerous times we think we ought to change the title to the basics of a good enough road. Because we just can't do the good road. We can't afford bottom up. So we look at top down technologies. Cold in place recycling worked out unbelievably well for my community. Hilltown, high elevation for Western Mass in the Berkshires, cold, ugly climates, poor soils, you name it. I had it all, and we still did it. And it was extremely successful. And with a little bit more investment, I think cold in place is a really good way to go. If it's the right candidate, your road's got to be the right candidate. These guys will tell you, and they've said it this morning, the right treatment at the right time. If you don't have the right candidate for cold in place, don't do it. You really have to have the right candidate for that roadway. So you guys go ahead.
And I'll jump in there and I'll just point out that I forget who asked the question, but you're not going to want to miss our episode that Conrad, Bobby, and myself will be discussing the bottom of the curve treatments, because we'll be talking much more in depth on, the cold in place recycling process, along with some the other bottom of the curve treatments as well. But, Mike, you said it best. Before you consider cold in place recycling, you want to make sure two things, basically: decent drainage, and you have good sub-base material. If you don't have good sub-base material, unfortunately, you're going to have to go down to that next step with, the full depth reclamation, typically. But to back up a little bit, so cold in place recycling, where does it fit on the deterioration curve? That's a big question that needs to be answered. And so, I talked to a lot of my clients. They know milling and filling. They know full depth reclamation. They didn't know about cold in place recycling, and that falls right in between. In my opinion, and you'll hear us debate, Conrad and Bobby and myself, it almost needs another treatment band along with a major mill and fill, in my opinion. You have your shallow mill and fills, 1.5 to 2 inches, and then you have your major mill and fills, along with cold in place recycling, and then you have your, full depth reclamation and reconstruction down below. So, cost standpoint, I'll point out again, equivalent annual cost. That's how I like to justify any of the projects with, how much is that treatment costing you over the life of the treatment? And that's a subject that I'd love to talk about. It's on roadresource.org. You can really learn more about it, but that's how you compare apples to apples with all these treatments that you're considering. What's the cost? How long is it going to last you? And then you calculate that equivalent annual cost, and that'll show you, if you're choosing, a good treatment over the length of the life of that treatment.
It sounds like one of those situations where you look at what it is going to cost to do this job. Oh gosh, we can't afford to do that job the right way, but we can afford to do it again and again and again. You know, we can't do it the right way, but we can always, there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time and money to do it again.
Kick the can down the road, right?
Yep, exactly. It's exactly it.
Mike, it's like the old quote about training, training in employees. What if we train our employees and they leave? Well, what if we don't train them and they stay? It's the same concept with your road. What if we maintain our road? Well, hey, there you go. If we don't, we're going to be doing it again.
That's right. What if we don't and they stay? Yeah, boy, you really nailed it. Tom has a follow-up on that. He says, are fog seals worth the cost? We tend to wait a couple extra years and then do chip seal instead of fog seal. My opinion is fog seals are definitely worth the cost if they're done at the right time. And you can fog seal a chip seal. If you have a chip seal right, that'll smoothen that surface out too. All these things are worth the cost if they're done at the right time. But if you have a road full of alligator cracking and then you think, well, I'll fog seal it, I wouldn't.
And you hit the nail on the head, Mike. It's all about catching it at the right time. People tend to look at fog seals and they look at it maybe after crack sealing. Me personally, I would love to grab a roadway for a fog seal before it starts cracking, because to me, that's where you're going to get the most cost benefit out of it. Roadways that's maybe, somewhere around 3 years old, maybe a little bit older. And it's starting to oxidize, but it hasn't started really cracking yet, or it's showing very, very minor signs of cracking. What the fog seal is going to do, especially a rejuvenating fog seal, is it's going to seep into the pavement, and it's going to give the top layer of pavement flexibility again. And it's going to basically stop the cracking from happening before it starts happening. And I know Bobby and Art, you guys are fog seal experts, so I won't talk too much more, but I absolutely think that it is worth the cost of fog seals if you're getting it at the right time in the right part of the deterioration bin.
Two things, and then you guys can continue. We're going to lose our captioning at about another minute or so. Jill needs to leave early. We're going to continue with Stump. However, we're going to go right up to 9 and maybe a little longer. And then I have some Facebook stuff coming in as well. So go ahead and finish your thoughts on the fog seal thing, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, Bobby, go ahead.
No, I think you're 100% right. And every one of these treatments has a place, and that's what, I think we keep preaching it, and not to be a broken record, but it's all about finding that place. And it could be, even from what's right. If you take the same exact road and put it in 2 different communities or 2 different settings, the right treatment could be different. So that's even what plays into it. It's not just what condition the road's in. It's all these different variables. And looking at things and catching things at the right time. But yeah, if you catch them at the right time, there's absolutely value. And going back to what Art was talking about with doing the equivalent annual cost and remaining service life and those type of things, if you run those calculations, that can help you make a more informed decision. When okay, what am I going to get? What's my cost? Because even when you take the cost into account, certain places, different costs are different. And it always amazes me, and we see it more so on the hot mix side, when you compare hot mix numbers for different communities and different areas and what communities are paying, it's a wide range, and it's for various reasons. So that's where some of those comparisons come into play and doing, that comparison. But, right place, absolutely. I think, Conrad, you hit it head on. I think sometimes people try and think of fog seal as a little bit too far down. Whereas catching it early and doing that, especially with the signs of the early oxidation, that's where it really is going to give you the most bang for the buck.
And in addition to that, the distress, the oxidation distress is definitely one of them. But the other one that I see a lot of is the raveling distress. And that, to me, raveling is when the fines start to come out of that asphalt. I'm seeing it sooner and sooner in asphalts. So if you can get that fog seal on before the raveling starts, you're going to prevent that from happening, because once raveling starts and the fines start coming out, the next step is the big stones start coming out. And once the big stones start coming out, now your potholes start forming. So if you can get that fog seal early enough in the process before it starts to ravel, you'll prevent that condition from happening. And then if you do start to see raveling, shoot it as soon as you can with a fog seal, and it'll freeze that condition for, a tricky question, how long? 3-4 years is pretty much the service life that I'm accustomed to using for a fog seal. So again, pretty low hanging fruit when you're talking about equivalent annual cost. If you're getting 3 to 4 years out of a treatment for, around $1 a square yard, let's say.
I need to,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop some frazzling from happening. We know you said raveling, but I don't want Jill to be frazzled. And I know she probably doesn't want to stop in mid-sentence. So Jill, thank you very much for being here this morning, and feel free to jump off there if you need to.
Hi,
Okay.
Jim.
Then go ahead, Art.
No, that's good. I was just finishing up, actually.
Okay. So let's see here. I think that was the last question, was about fog seal, although let me know that I was incorrect about where the oldest one in the country is. The oldest concrete road is not in Concord, but there is an old concrete road in Concord. I'm almost positive about that. Maybe I'll reach out to Craig and find out where it is. A couple of statements came up in the Facebook thing. I thought they were questions, but turns out they were just more statements. So I'm glad that we have some folks tuning in on Facebook Live as well. These are some really good pavement preservation questions coming out this morning. Pavement preservation is a pretty big business, quite honestly. And there's this guy I know. He's kind of a big deal in the DPW, especially in the DPW world, especially in his own. He recently won the James Sorensen Award for the best pavement preservation program in the country, and I see him smiling there. And he tuned in early just to see how the sausage was made. And I'm going to put him right on the spot now and ask him if he would like to help make the sausage. And maybe he could be a guest here on Stump the Instructor next Wednesday and talk a little more about pavement preservation and what Lexington did to achieve such a prestigious thing. Well, John is actually the one that did it. I mean, he got that award. And John, I won't you don't have to answer me today. It's like, you popped a question. This isn't like marriage. You don't have to say yes today, but maybe we could talk after this, and I'd love to have you as a guest.
So we'd be happy to do it. I do want to say it was the engineering department, not me, that won the award. I'm part of that group, but it's a great team that we have here. And I'd be happy to do it. I cannot do it next Wednesday because I actually have a presentation on stormwater with another group. But we'd be happy to do it at some point.
Great, John. I appreciate that. And sorry to put you on the spot, but it's the best way. When you do that, it's hard for people to say no. So I'll grab you. Don't worry.
Not the first time you put me on the spot, Mike. So I'm prepared for it.
If you come to this show and you're not ready to be put on the spot, you've come to the wrong place.
Mike, I think all of us here have put John on the spot at some point in time with helping out with different things. So I would echo first the congratulations and also a thanks for everything you do for the industry and with the state, and I know a lot of the colleagues of yours that I've talked to speak very highly of you and what you've done there in Lexington and the group. So congratulations on that. Certainly a big honor.
So. Yeah, really, John. I mean, just unbelievable, and I'm happy for you and your entire team. Question for the DPW crowd that's here, and you can verbalize this answer. You can type it in the chat, and you can include it as notes in the survey, which the link to the survey has been posted in the chat function. Before y'all jump off, please make sure you take the time to get that link and fill out the survey. What kind of interest does the DPW world have in asphalt mix design? How much are you looking at your asphalt mix design and changing it? Or are you simply opening up what they used to call the blue book, the Mass DOT blue book, and picking a pre-approved MassDOT asphalt mix and saying, we'll just use this one? So you don't have to answer me right now. You could send myself or any member of the team here a response to that, but feel free to answer me right now as well. Is mix design important to you, and how important is it to you? I guess that's a good way to look at it. My fear is
Mike, I have a stump question for you that goes back to the initial part of this this episode. I'm wondering, do you know the average lifespan of Punxsutawney Phil?
The average lifespan of Punxsutawney Phil, I believe, is about
Or of a groundhog?
about 8 years, isn't it?
It's a little bit shorter than that.
Is it?
Less when dropped.
Or shot.
You guys are
No,
just
if it's in Lisa's neighborhood, it's much shorter, but
just cruel. What,
sorry, while you were thinking there, I had to throw that in.
what's the answer?
It is 6 years in the wild.
6 years in the wild. Okay. Well,
Yes.
there you have it, folks. You learned it here today. You
Would
learned
that
it here.
include in the hills of Heath? Now, the winters are pretty tough up there.
They are pretty tough, especially this week. Yeah, I don't know. We can throw around, if you want to really trade some good groundhog trivia, we can throw some around. What's the name of the group of gentlemen that wear the top hats that go and get him? They have a special name for their group. What are they called? They are the Inner Circle, and you can join the Inner Circle Club, but you're not going to become a handler unless you happen to live close by and you spend a lot of time with them. Hey, I incorrectly identified Aldo as the one who corrected me earlier on the oldest concrete road. It wasn't Aldo, it was Alan. So thank you, Alan, for setting myself straight on that. I didn't want Aldo to feel like I was calling him out for something he didn't do.
Hey, Mike, if you don't mind, I'm going to get back to the whole virtual thing and ask you, so obviously here we are, we're closing in on a year. And Bay State Roads has done a lot of different things and made adjustments. What do you see as things that are going to stick around post-COVID, shall we say? I think obviously we all are ready to be out of this, but what do you see as positives or things from a training perspective that are going to stick around, hopefully for better?
Well, Karen Dodge is on the edge of her seat waiting for my answer right now. I can almost guarantee it. I see something like this, maybe not the weekly thing, but virtual training in some form. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think as hesitant as we meaning people like myself, the dinosaurs in the world, who I still crave face-to-face interaction, and we are going to go back to that. There's certain things that lend themselves to face-to-face that just don't work in the virtual world. But the virtual world, being forced to sit in front of a computer and meet people online and take training to this level, has shown us all that, one, we can do this. Change can happen. It's the good old example, like I sit like this because I'm old, I'm Irish, and I have bad shoulders. So if you want to see what changes, you take whatever arm's on the top and you put it on the bottom. You can do it. It just feels weird. So I've had to learn how to do that. And there are some trainings that I could see staying in the virtual world, or at least part-time. You might be out on the far tip of the Cape or the islands or somewhere like that, and you want our services from UMass or mine, a class that I teach. And maybe it's a short one. Maybe it's a half-day class. To drive all the way to go to Scituate. Well, I'll just pick on Scituate because I've been there a few times and I like them. But maybe that's one of those things where we do something virtually because we can. We have the technology. I think we've mastered it. We've learned it and mastered it. And I see that sticking around. And if you happen to be in South Deerfield right now, you should all look out your windows because pigs are in fact flying. That I'm saying these words. And if you see the one that has the one wooden leg, damn it, give him back. That's my special pig. I have one pig with a peg leg, and you all know about my peg leg pig, right? You don't know?
No.
Do we want to know?
We grew up, yeah. We had a one.
Not like knowing what bull nagging is?
Growing up on the farm, we had a pig that had a wooden leg, and people used to stop and say, well, you have a pig with a wooden leg. I'm like, yeah, it's a mighty good pig. And they're like, why does he have a wooden leg? Oh, it's a mighty good pig. One night the house caught fire, and we didn't know, we were sleeping, and the pig was squealing and yelling, carrying on, making all this noise, and woke us up and saved all of our lives. A mighty good pig. And they said, oh, did he get his leg burnt in the fire? Like, oh no, he didn't burn his leg. No, he was fine. Well, why does he have the wooden legs? A mighty good pig. You don't want to eat them all at once. So those of you that tune in just for the jokes, there's the joke of the day today, okay?
And that there, folks, is Heath Live.
That's Heath for you right there. All right, folks, it's 9:02. Bobby, Art, and Conrad, I want to thank the three of you for coming on here this morning. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we covered some of the questions people had and gave people an appetite for other avenues, things they can do to stay entertained in the COVID world. Last chance for questions or comments, folks, from the crowd.
Mike, why do we drive on the parkway and park on the driveway?
I don't know. Why do we? Oh, you don't have an answer?
No, that's up for debate. That's up for debate.
Oh, jeez.
I
Now,
figured that was
Conrad,
right up
you're
your
in
alley.
Eastern Mass, right?
I am in Eastern Mass, correct.
So Conrad would say that differently. Why do we pack on the driveway and drive on the packway? Right? You just get a cup of Mary Lou's and I can't figure it out. My God.
Isn't it ironic that the person who's in Eastern Mass, or supposedly the infrastructure is the best, is the one who got booted because of poor internet connection?
Yeah.
See, there's so many of them down there. They're all trying to stream. They got their Facey pages open and all that stuff. They got nothing to do. You know, they got all that snow yesterday and they don't plow them roads so good down there. So they're probably all stuck. Their cars are packed in a freaking snowbank somewhere. They ain't parkway, driveway. They ain't got a plowed way. They got nothing down there. They ain't got nowhere to put the snow. So they're all stuck in their homes on Facebook. That's why you ain't got no internet. I'm sorry, Conrad. You gotta turn me off.
That's fantastic. That was a nice little rant there.
Yeah, well,
Very
we're
good,
getting
Mike.
started, for God's sakes. That snow, I'm telling you, that frickin' stuff. Sharpen up your shovels. There's another one coming Friday, boys and girls.
Hey, I will say one of the benefits being down here by Cape Cod is that everybody on this site right now probably got whacked with snow, and I got zero inches.
You guys got
Which-
rain, right?
We got all rain. I was actually disappointed. I wanted the kids to go outside, you know, do some sledding, and we got disappointed. So I guess I'll have to drive 30 minutes and go play in somebody else's backyard.
Come on up to my house. We got some snow. You can take some with you when you leave. I got enough to share.
Sounds good.
Mike, thanks a lot for having us on, Mike.
Hey, you're welcome, everybody. Or you're welcome. Thank all of you. I appreciate it. Thank everybody who tuned in this morning. As always, you know, it's a pleasure to do this, and I enjoy it. I have a good time doing this. I don't think you'd be able to tell if I hadn't told you that. So with that, oh, wait a minute. Jeez.
Shameless plug for UMTC again.
Oh, hey, absolutely. I gotta close it out the way that we're supposed to here. So here we go. Oh, is it going to work this morning? There we go. Yeah. So I was the host. Thank you for that. Jill left, but we thank her for the captioning, the other co-hosts for being here, and for the three of you for joining me this morning. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to have some guests, and takes some of the stress off me. You got to have a chainsaw in your life every day. If you don't hear the roar of a chainsaw every day, it's like a day without sunshine. At least in my world it is anyway. So thanks a lot, folks. We will see you another time. I don't know exactly what next week's topic will be, but it'll be something. That's for sure. It'll be something. So take care,
Good job,
everybody.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mike.